Hello and welcome to the 7th installment of my grading of all of the expansion cards in Terraforming Mars. This is episode number 6 on Venus Next. As always, if you want insight into the grading system, check out the description, or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. If you want to know how I go about ranking the expansion cards compared to the base game cards, check out the first video of rating expansion cards, which is also linked in the description. But let's get started. In Venus Next, there are 4 payoff cards that require one of each of the planetary tags, and this episode we will talk about 3 of them. Luxury Foods is the first. It's a very simple point payoff. You need to get a Venus, an Earth and a Jovian tag, and then you get to play this. Let's consider a few factors. First of all, in theory the price is not particularly amazing if you think about it. Dust Deals establishes the fair price of a VP as 5 MC, and Luxury Foods costs 5.5 MC per VP. But there we need to consider the second factor, the requirement. Dust Seal's max requirement means you need to play the card early, when you'd rather establish a good economy. Luxury Foods, on the other hand, has a regular tech requirement that is super easy to reach for someone going for an engine. This means if you're going for the strategy this card is designed for, engine, you will almost always be able to play this in the last gen, which is exactly when you want to play a techless pure point card. Also, in the last gen, you're most likely to have the most discounts down, potentially making this card even more effective. So I'd say Luxury Foods is a card I'm never sad to see in an engine strategy. It can be kept on hand until the last gen, and then almost 100% of the time be played for nearly the fair VP to MC value, or even better if you have discounts down. Obviously, it's really bad for a rush, but I'm still inclined to put it in C tier as a solid point payoff in the late game. Next up, we're going to talk about one of the most niche Venus payoffs that paradoxically is flexible at the same time and can be a huge value play in the mid to late game. Maxwell Base. To play it, you need to reach 12% Venus, a value that often you need to push for yourself or it won't even be reached. But incidentally, 12% Venus is the same value you need to reach to play Stratbirds. And that is basically the best case scenario for Maxwell Base already. Play it for 3 flat points and use it to score 1 more point each gen until the end of the game. How many points does it need to be of good value? Well, Maxwell Base costs 18 plus 3 to buy and play, as well as 7 MC for the power prod. That's 28 MC. If we assume 5 MC for a victory point again, it needs to score 6 points to pay off, a value that is reached 2 gens after playing it, since it can be immediately used in the gen it is played. That's quite realistic if you're going for a Venus-centered game plan and have Stratbirds on hand. Also, since going for Venus is often combined with an engine strat with some science, if you can get the power prods cheaply through quantum or mass, the implied price of Maxwell Base will obviously decrease. Of course, Stratbirds is the best case scenario. With Venusian animals, you probably wouldn't be able to play both cards as soon as possible, and get to use Maxwell Base in the same gen as getting Venusian animals down. But that's where its flexibility comes in. You are not restricted to these 2 animal cards. You can also use Maxwell Base on worse Venus cards to start off with. Venusian insects, sulfur-eating bacteria, or floating hebs would be really great second tier examples. And then, when you reach 18% Venus or 12 for Stratbirds, you can switch using it for the animals. So I spent the last minute praising Maxwell Base, but of course it has its downsides. If you're going for Venus, it still needs either Stratbirds or Venusian animals to really shine, making it really situational. Also, what if you get Stratbirds in Maxwell Base, but no efficient way to increase the Venus, or no floater card to get Stratbirds down? Then of course there's the possibility that you don't even go for Venus, either because you're going for a pure engine with science and Jovians, or because you're rushing. In all of these cases, Maxwell Base is useless, but it is still a threat in the draft because you always know how well it can score. I think, all in all, I can't go higher than B tier with it, since it's so situational. Still, I really enjoy playing this card. The next of the cards that requires one of each planetary tags is Mining Quota, and in my opinion, this one is much worse than Luxury Foods. Why though, you might ask? 5 MC for 2 steel prod is insane when compared to mine. You pay just 1 MC more and get double the effect, or in other words, the second steel prod is discounted by 6 MC. But while with luxury foods you didn't mind the requirement since you want to play pure point cards late in the game anyways, it's quite the opposite with mining quota, a pure production card. Basically, it's the inverted problem that Dust Deals has. You want to play Dust Deals late but can't, and you want to play mining quota early but most probably can't either. On the other hand, if you can play this in Gen 1 or 2, it's quite an excellent production card that pays off in just 2 gens. In theory, even a Rush player would enjoy such a great production card. But since the requirement really doesn't suit Rush, that falls through. So when considering all of this, I think mining quota is just D tier, but well designed. A niche card that feels great to play in certain circumstances. Neutralizer Factory is another Venus card that is just a tad bit too weak and situational to be consistently good. It basically does the same as Water to Venus for 2 MC less, but has a really annoying requirement. 10% Venus is surprisingly high, and also means that you can't use Neutralizer Factory for that first bonus bump. If you're not actively pushing Venus yourself, those 5 Venus bumps to get to 10% are definitely not guaranteed. And for that, you just get a 2 MC discount? Really? Also, objectively, Water to Venus has the better combo potential. You can pay for it with Titanium, it triggers space discounts, Media Group and Optimal, while Neutralizer Factory only has dirigibles and Venus Way Station as well as stuff like sulfur exports. At least it's a rather cheap tech for Venefile, but I'd still put it in D tier, a whole tier lower than Water to Venus. Lastly, let's get to Omnicourt. This is another one of these cards that needs one of each planetary text to be playable and then grants 2 TR. In comparison to luxury foods, it costs 3 MC more, meaning that if you play this 2 gens prior to game end, it actually is cheaper in total. Since it also can be paid for with steel, I think this can be quite a good play. Of course, with luxury foods you absolutely don't care when you reach the requirement, as long as you reach it before game end. With Omnicourt, however, you want to reach it sooner rather than later, such that you get some money back from the TR you gain, making the card less of a no-brainer for Engine, because as a pure point scorer it's not that amazing. Again, as with luxury foods, Omnicourt is super useless for Rush, but still lands in lower C tier for me. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings or if not, how you would have rated these cards differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.